Hey guys, welcome to Recraft channel and today, as you know, we will be going through React hooks. So before starting, I want you to point you to this video. This is the last live stream that I did, and I just want you guys to check it out. I think it's good, and if you don't know about array method, it will be like a perfect video for you guys. So I'm going to link this in the in the description, and you can go and watch it if you want to. So yeah, so I hope you all are doing good, and today we'll be going through React hooks. So let's just get started. The main hooks that I want to talk about today is useEffect, useState, and useCallback. And after that, we will be going through some custom hooks that we're going to be built along the way. All right. So I already had a dummy React project set up. I'm going to open that up here. Just give me a second. So where it is, projects, live, my app. Yeah, no, it's hooks, I guess. So yeah, let's get started. So this is a normal JavaScript project that I have set up. I wanted to use TypeScript, but I figured for right now, let's just use plain JavaScript. I think that will be cool. So let's just get started. We have this here. Let me do yarn start, so I will be ready to start. So it's loading right now. But yeah, the first, let me kind of like open a roadmap here. So first thing, it will be useState that we'll be talking about, then useEffect. And after that we will be going through useCallback, and then we'll go through some custom hooks, right? So is my project up? Yeah, so it is up and running. Normal dummy React application. So yeah, so let's start with useState, right? So useState is basically a hook that is introduced by React in React 16, and what basically happens in useState is that it allows you to save state across renders. For example, if you are familiar with React 15, we used to have class components, and in those class components we used to have state, and we used to have a set state method which allows us to update that state and use it across renders. With hooks, with useState hook, we do the same thing. So for example, what the syntax for the useState is something like this. So const an array, the variable that we are trying to save the state, basically, for example, let's say some text, and then we have an updater function called setText equal to useState, which is imported from React, and then the initial value of this text. So I'm going to type something called hello world. Yeah. So let's see. Here what I'm going to do is, instead of this, I'm going to show this text, and if I go here, reload this page, you can see the hello world here. So how it works is that so the syntax is something like this. So useState is basically a hook which takes an initial value of the state. So for example, right now our initial value is hello world, and then it gives us two elements, which is the first one is a text is like the current variable where the value is going to be stored, and then set text is like an updater function which allows you to update the text and trigger a re-render, basically. One important thing to understand about useState is that it returns an array. All right, it's returning an array which we are destructuring here. basically. So for example, we can do it something like this, state, right, kind of like this, and then we can say here state dot not state dot text but state 0th element, right? And if I go here and then I go here, it still works the same way. You know, we have to that is like one of the most important thing about hooks, that they return simple values, and about useState is that it returns an array. The first element of the array is the state itself, and the second element of array is the method to update the first like the first element, the state, right? So that is a very important distinction, I think. The other thing is what we are doing here, this syntax, which is like the most common syntax used around in the React community. This is basically nothing. We are just destructuring an array. You know, we are saying that we got an array, and the first element we're going to call text, and the second element we're going to call set text. You know, there is no hard and fast rule. You can call it whatever you want. Just remember, the first value of the array will be our state. The second value of the array written by useState will be our updater function. So enough about the state. For example, you know, you can just so I typed hello world as an initial value, and now text hold the value hello world here. So now I want to update it, right? Let's update it. Let's whenever do something like this. So whenever we click on the logo, right, what we want to do is we want to update the value. So to update the value, we have to call the updater function here with the value that we want to store in the text. So let's say hello world, instead of hello world I want to say logo is spinning, right? So because this logo is spinning, so I'm going to just say spinning here. And what I'm going to do is go here, click on this. Oh, it doesn't seem to work. Let me see what is wrong. Okay, for some reason I'm not able to click this button. It's strange, but let's create a button here and do this and say click me, right? So what we are doing on click, we are updating this text, and then that text will get saved inside this variable here, and it's going to be shown here, right? I'm going to reload this, click on click me, and you can see it says logo spinning here, right? So this so as a summary, what useState do is it basically takes an initial value. The useState hook, it takes an initial value, and then it runs an array of two elements in which the first element is the text itself, is the state itself which we want to update and which we want to store. The other element is the updater function, which can update the value, basically, which we see here. So we can do any kind of, we can save any kind of state here. For example, number 1, and I say, you know what, once we click on this, just do this text plus 1, set text plus 1, and I go here, click on this, and it keep updating. Why it is keep updating is when I'm setting the text in the first render, the text value is 1, and when I click on the button 1 plus 1, I set it to inside this. So now the text value is 2, and the re-renders happen again, and now when I click again, now the text value is 2, then 2 plus 1 is 3, again the re-render, and that just keep going. As many as time I will click on this, the render will hit again. For example, even I can show you this thing, console.log text, right? and yeah, so console.text. So you can see the re-render happening, the console is there because the re-render is happening. So whenever you update a state using useState, it's going to trigger a re-render basically. Right, so I think this is pretty much about useState. There's one important distinction about useState is that it always replaces the previous value. That is very important distinction because it never merges two states. For example, previously how setState used to work is that the if you want to update a single variable in state, you can do that, but here every state is a single value, so it will always replace. So for example, if I'm telling set text to save 2, it's always going to replace the 1, then 3 is going to replace 2, right? This is fine as long as we are not dealing with complex data structures. For example, an object, so I have an object, and let's say age 23, name Manoj, right? If I do this, right, and I go here and I say that change my age to 24, right, and instead of text I say, for example, age and text dot name here, right, and I'm going to go here, right? So it says 23 Manoj, but when I click, it's going to remove Manoj. The reason behind it is because I am replacing it with an object here, right? So now when I replace this with this, then because it doesn't have any name value, the name is basically get empty, and nothing shows here basically. So this is important to understand that set state is always going to replace the previous state, not merge them together. If you want to merge them together, then you have to do something like this, triple dot text, right, and triple dot text, and if you go here, now it will work, right? Because now I'm merging two states and then replacing the current state, right? So whenever we are dealing with complex data structures, we normally don't assume to use useState. There are other hooks like useReducer and everything. I'm going to do a separate video about useReducer, but yeah, I mean, one most important thing about useState is that it's going to replace the previous state. So never use it with complex data structures, or if you're using them, use them with caution basically, right? So this is useState, right? That is that. Now let's talk about useEffect, right? So let's strike off useState from our list. We don't need it now, right? This is not needed. Now let's talk about useEffect. Okay, so useEffect is basically introduced to mimic component did mount or component did update. So basically what useEffect do is, let me walk you through the syntax. So useEffect is get it kind of called like this and this, yeah, so yeah, so this is the syntax for useEffect. Okay, what useEffect do is it takes a function and it takes a dependency array. All right, so whenever any variable inside the dependency array changes, it's going to call the function that we provides it. All right, so let's have a look at this example. Use dependency updated. Okay, dependency updated. All right, let's go here and you can see for the first time it runs because previously it was empty, and then we are providing initial value, so it runs for the first time. Then I click again, it runs for the second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time. Whenever I'm clicking, I'm updating the state, and because the state is updating, the text is changing, and that's why the use effect is running again and again, because a variable inside the dependency array is updated. So to simplify this, I'm going to turn this into a string again, right? And yeah, so now have a look at this. So if I go here and say this, all right, so we have to understand that initial value was hello world, and now I am saying that on button click change the value to hello world, which is like no change. So let's see if the use effect will run or not. So if I click, it will not run because the dependency is not updated. Okay, so if dependency is not updated, then it's not going to run. It's running for the first time because initially the state is empty and we are providing initial value to it, and that's why it's triggering that use effect basically. So now one another important thing about use effect is that yeah, so that it takes, so you can also return let me do this. Okay, so now I'm going to explain this. So the function that we provide to you, so let me I think using TypeScript was a better idea now, but yeah, let me walk you through how useEffect actually, how the syntax is basically. So the syntax is a function which returns a function and it has a dependency array. So this function, so I'm basically, this is the function, right? So this is a function which returning a function. So either you can return a function or not, but if you return a function, that function will act like component unmount, and what component will unmount basically do is that it runs after every use effect is ran. All right, so for example, if I ran a use effect and now the value is updating, if a new use effect is basically running, it's going to first call this function. So for example, I have this use effect, right? So if I click on the button, you can see hello Manoj dependency updated, but if I click again, it's not going to update because it's not updating. So let me do one thing. Let's give it a value which change all the time now, right? Like this. So like this, right? So now what is happening basically is whenever I'm updating, the use effect is running, but when I'm again calling the use effect, again calling this state change, the previous use effect return function will run. So it's basically like a kind of like a if you want to clean up some things, for example, if you added an event listener to the document, for example, document dot add event listener, click, and then I provide a function like right. So this will be the function where you will be removing these listeners, because if you don't, right, because if you don't, then it's going to pile up, because use effect is running again and again and again and again, as many as time it will run, it will basically add the event listener. So for example, if I don't do this, right, and I go, I go here, right, now you can see, whenever I click on something, it's basically going to, but if I click again and again and again, now you can see, even on one click, you can see how many times it is getting called, because there are multiple event listener added, because useEffect is running, on every state change. So what we want to do is we want to remove the event listener. So what we will do, if I click, you can see it's getting called one time. If I click here, now you can still see that it's going to getting clicked only one time, right? Because what we are doing is we are adding event listener on every use effect, but we are removing it if a new use effect is getting called. So it kind of work like component will unmount basically. All right. I think I already told you about the dependency array. Anything changes in the dependency array, the use effect will get called. So we can, let's have a look at another example. So const, let's say number, and let's say set number equal to useState 1, right? Now let's put that in our dependency array. Okay, and let's remove this, we don't need this, and just say console.log text name, right? Oh, not name, number, right? And let's call both of them here. Yeah, let's go like this here, then call set number here, and initially what we are going to do is let's say number plus 1. Okay, so let's go here and let's see if that works. Alright, so you can say hello world 1. If I click on click me, you can see it's updating. So let's do one thing, let's not update it. So we know that the number state change is affecting the use effect. So if I click, hello stays the same, the text is not getting updated, but the number is getting updated. And because the number is added in the dependency array of the use effect, the use effect going to run again, because any variable inside the dependency array, any dependency inside the dependency array, if that is getting updated, the use effect will run again. All right, so you can see it's being run. So I think use effect is this is the use effect, but when you have to use effect, right? So use state you use because you want to save state. Use effect is used for running anything which is not which we can't do in render. For example, an API hit that can be done inside use effect, or if you want to add event listeners, that is going to be done inside use effect, because whatever you can't do inside render. What that means is, for example, if you're going to do an API hit inside render, if I do a fetch here, it is going to call every time I re-render, and we don't want that, right? We don't want to call API in every re-render, but what we want is, for example, if I change anything here, like a number, maybe a ID of an employee, I want to refetch the information of that employee, right? So what we can do is we can put the ID here, and say whenever the ID changes, hit this API and save it in the state. So let's do with it. Let's do that, and it will be a good example, right? As now I think of it. So let me get a dummy API. I think it is API. So yeah, so this is a fake API, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to show you how how you can do API hit using useEffect. So I basically going to paste it here. So you can see, this takes a ID, and whenever the ID changes, we basically can uh, you know uh, using different ID, it can give us different results basically. All right, so let's console the JSON for now and see how that works. I'm going to go here, run this code. So you can see for the first time it ran, because useEffect runs always for the first time. Now I go here, click again, and you can see it always fetches the result. You can even go to the network and you can see, right, why it is making the API request, because the number is changing, because the number is changing, the dependency array is getting updated. That is why the useEffect is getting run and the API hit is being made. But it is of no use to me, right? Because whenever I click, it always gives me the same result, right? If I go here, it always gives me the same result. Let's spice it up, and let's, instead of this number here, what I'm going to do is let me convert it to template literal. All right, instead of that, let me do this. Let me use the number. So now whenever the number changes, it's going to make a new API hit, right? Because if it's 1, then it's going to make a API hit for to-do/1, then for to-do/2, to-do/3, right? So let's see if that works. Okay, so I go here, right, I click on click me. Now you can see the ID 2, you can see ID 3, and even you can see the title changing, right? I can say ID 5, ID 6, and that it just keep happening, right? So this is useEffect. Basically, you can change something. You can you can put anything inside useEffect which you can't directly call inside render. All right, and that is why it calls useEffect, because it because of a cause, because of a change, you are doing an effect. You're affecting something. So this is basically useEffect. So now this is useEffect. Now let's we can strike that off our list here. Now let's move on to useCallback. Okay, so useCallback is basically let me set it up example, and then I'm going to walk you through. So const func equal to a normal function which just console.log func. Okay, right, so let's do that. So now let's do thing, and let's see how that works. So basically the thing with the func is, for example, let's not use number here, and right, let's just keep it 1, and then I don't have to do this, right? So now ideally our useEffect should only run when the func is updated, right? Not when the number is updated, whenever the state is getting updated and everything, right? But you can see it's still running. Why it is still running, right? The number is not in the dependency array, but the useEffect is still running whenever I'm updating the number state. How is that possible, right? Because useEffect only runs when the dependency, anything inside the dependency array is updated, right? And the number is not in the dependency array, so why it is getting called? So that means function is changing every render. The variable, the value of the function is changing on every render. Let's do a useCallback here, right? Instead of this, let's just do a useCallback. I'll walk you through the syntax, but let me prove my point first. So now if I go here, reload this, it runs for the first time, but then it's not running now. Why? What happened, right? it's not running. Previously it was running. If I remove use callback, then use effect is getting called every time, even if we are not directly updating the func. So let me for that, let me walk you through how functions, array, objects are saved in JavaScript, you know in a variable. So for example, if you're saving a string, or a string, a number, right, a decimal number, they get saved as value. So for example, if I go here and say var 1, right, equal to 0, oh sorry, var 1 equal to 0, and if I check this equality thing, it's going to say true because 1 holds the value 0. That makes sense, right? But what if I do this, right? Even if I do this, this works, right? But why this is not working? Why array equal to array doesn't work? Or if example, if I say const func equal to this, and I say console.log hello, and I define another function with the same syntax, like same function body but different name, and if I go double equal to func1, why it is false? Virtually there is no difference between this function, because even if I called func, it's going to console hello, and if I call func1, is going to console hello. What is the difference? The difference is, in JavaScript and in many other languages, the functions, array, objects, all the values which are like not literals, by literals I mean number and string, they are saved as pointer in a memory. So whatever whatever variable you define, it's same somewhere in the memory, right, in the RAM, basically in the memory address in the RAM, right? So for function, because function can be of any length, what they do is basically they save it inside the RAM, and then the variable only holds the address to that memory, not the whole value, right? For like numbers and string, it holds the value. For example, if you say var 1 equal to 1, then 1 have the actual value 1. But if you say var func equal to some function, the func variable only have the memory address to that function, right? So what that means is that func and func1 have different memory addresses because they are different variables, right? But in case of a string or a string or a number, what happens if you say 1 equal to 1 and then 2 equal to 1, a equal to 1 and b equal to 1, and you say a equal to b, because they both are holding a value, not a memory address, they will reconcile and say we are equal. But in case of function, objects or array, the memory address will not match, and that's why it will basically say that it is changed. And that is what is happening right now. So because we know that this whole thing is a render, right? This whole thing is a render, and renders reruns every time state changes or props changes, right? So whenever state and props are changing, the func function is getting defined again, and because it is defined again, the memory address is different every render, and because the memory address is different every render, useEffect thinks that this is a new function, the value of the function is updated. All right, so it is on every re-render, no matter what caused the re-render, right? So in our case, number is causing the re-render. Okay, number is causing the re-render, right? So because number is causing the re-render, function is getting defined again, and because now the function have a different memory address, the dependency array is getting updated. It have a new memory address for the function, and so it says that function is modified, and now I'm going to run the useEffect. useCallback is specifically designed to solve this problem. All right, so what useCallback do is, it takes your function and return a memory address, or a memoized function. So what memoized is basically, it returns, it takes a dependency array. So useEffect takes a function and a dependency array. So what it says, if the dependency is not updated, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to return the same function, not a new function, but I'm going to return the same memory address inside the function. So in every render, function is getting redefined again and again. That's still applicable, but this time now the memory address is getting passed along, and because on every re-render the memory address inside the use callback is same, the func is not getting updated. So even the number is getting updated, func is not getting redefined again, because use callback says, because my dependencies are not updated, I'm not going to redefine the function, and I'm going to return the same memory address and save it inside the func. Now it takes a dependency array, and same as useEffect, if anything inside the dependency array is updated, the function inside the use callback will be redefined, and it will have a new memory address, and then it will be passed along to the func. And because now func have a new memory address, the useEffect will be called. So let's do something. So let's say number, right? Number. So now I say, instead of console log this, console this. Okay, so now let's see what happens. And we don't right. So now, all right, let me do something first. So if I don't provide anything inside the dependency array, it will not run. Okay, it's not running because useEffect takes func, and func is not getting updated because anything inside the use callback dependency is not updated. All right, but now if I say number here and I go here, click, you can see it's updating now, because the number is getting updated, the dependency of the use callback is updated, so the function is redefined again, the memory address is returned to the func, because now func has a new memory address. The useEffect says, this is a new memory address, so I assume that this is a new function I'm going to run. So this is use callback in in a nutshell. I think I explained it right, but if you guys still have question, you can always reach out to me on YouTube. Just comment it out, just comment, and I'll try to again explain it in greater lengths. So yeah, this is use callback. All right, and now we can strike this off again, and now to the juicy part, basically, the custom hooks. Okay, so what are custom hooks and why should we use them? Right, we can do anything without custom hook. Okay, we don't actually need custom hooks to to write an application, right? We don't need them, but the benefit of using the custom hooks are that it allows you to package a functionality inside a component and then share it with another component. For example, API hits. Okay, so for example, what you're doing, you are making a lot of API hit and then saving it into a variable. You're doing some kind of operation in it, and now because you're doing some kind of operation in it, right, now you want to share that operation across different components, right? So that is where custom hook will basically come into play. So custom hook basically allows you to package functionalities between your components and share them with other components. One of the most important thing about custom hooks is that inside a custom hook you can use an existing hook. For example, you can use useEffect, useState, right? You can use that inside a custom hook. One other important thing about custom hooks is that they always should be prefixed with use. That is how React knows that this is a hook, not a normal function. Okay, and I think I forgot to tell you one more important thing about hooks is that they always should be called in the same order. By the same order I mean is, if in the previous render there were three callbacks, like three hooks, for example useState and useEffect, in the next render it should be the same. All right, so what I mean is, for example, I can't put a if condition here and then call useEffect, right? I can say if number, then only do useEffect. Okay, I can't say that. All right, because if I do that, this will happen, right? React hook is called conditional react hook must be called in the exact same for every render. All right, because if you don't, then they will not be able to save, react internet will not be able to save the correct value for the hooks, because it uses indexes inside to take care of the values for the different hooks. All right, so then now let's write a custom hook. But before writing a custom hook, let's develop a functionality, all right, which we want to share with other components as well. So we have this API, right? So let's make it again as it was. So it was a number, and what we wanted is, instead of this, whenever the number is updated, so whenever the number is updated, I am going to basically call the API. What is this? What is wrong here? What is wrong here? I don't know. Seriously? So I removed this. Sorry. Okay, so right, so if we go to our here, if I click, then you can see the new values coming here, right? So now what I want to do is, I want to extract the name out of it, like the title out of it, and just and the basically the state of the to do item. So basically this is a to do item, right? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get the const current to do. So for to do, set to do, right, and use state to do, right? So now I only need what is this? Cannot access to do before initialization, where I'm all right. So it is yeah, so yeah. Okay, all right, so now I have a state to do and set to do. So what we are going to do is, basically we want to extract title from it, and then basically save it into a state and all that. So I'm just going to say to do title here instead of the whole to do. I don't want to save the whole to do, and then I'm going to do set to do title here, and because it's empty string in the start, so I'm just going to do this. And what I'm going to do is, I am, instead of click me here or here, I'm going to say to do title, right, and I don't need this, so I'm not going to use this, right, and set to do title will be something like this. So it will be json.title, because json is the whole object and inside it has title, so I'm just going to set it as the the title. So let's see if that works. Use callbacks define, I don't need that. Let's get rid of this yellow thing here. Yeah, so now if you can see the name getting changed here, right, for the first time. If I click again, click again, click again, so this is good functionality, right? Just keep clicking and it's going to make API hits, and it's going to return the title, and it's going to set in the state. But now, in order to do that, I have to put a API hit there. That's fine, right? and then I also have to take a state variable. I don't want to do this, right? And I want to do this inside a different component. There's a component where I want to show the title, right? Now what I do, I have to copy paste this logic. So for example, I have to copy paste this whole logic into that and do this thing again, and I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do, instead of copying this whole thing there, I'm going to create a custom hub. All right, so let's just do that. As I said, your function, your hook is a normal function, but it should be start with use, it should be prefixed with use. So I'm just going to say use to do, or I'm say use to do title, right? And then I'm going to say, so remember, you can use already defined hooks inside inside your custom hook. Okay, so let's do that. So in order to do that, so now what I want to do, I want to do a API hit. So I'm going to pick useEffect and I'm going to put it here. All right, I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to say that instead of doing the useEffect inside my component here, I'm going to do the useEffect inside this my custom hook. Okay, so now it needs set to title. So I'm going to say, instead of saving the state in my component, I am going to use I'm going to save the component like the state here. And because what this function do is it returns a title, so it takes a number, the ID of the to do item. So to do ID, right? It takes to do ID, hit the API, right, and returns me the to do title. Simple as that. Okay, so this is simple as that, right? You don't have to do anything. Okay, so it's like what I'm doing right now. So I basically created a function which takes a ID, a to do ID, and then it says that I'm going to make a API hit, right, and then going to save it inside my state to do title, and then I'm going to return it. All right, in order to use it, how I'm going to use it is something like this. Const, because I know that it returns only a single variable, I'm going to say to do title equal to use to do title, and then pass in the number. All right, simple as that. If I want to use it inside another component, I just have to do this line, just this line. All right, so now what happened here? Okay, let me walk you through. Let me see if that works first or not, right? So I click here, it still works. All right, it's still working. So you can see the network API hits here, going on, right? So it kind of works, voila. But how it works, right? How custom hooks actually works. So what right now we are doing is, we created a custom hook called use to do title, and it takes a number. Okay, it takes a number which is like essentially a to do ID. Okay, now what it does, it's keep a state of the to do title, yes, and it also has a useEffect. So useEffect inside custom hooks runs the same way as it runs inside a component. Okay, it is the same. All right, so so what it's saying, that if the to do ID is updated, so for example here what I'm doing, so I receive a to do ID and I say, if to do ID is updated, I'm going to hit the API and going to set the title, and whatever inside my title, whatever inside my to do title, I'm going to return it. So what is happening on every render, for example, for the first time the number is 1, right? So 1 is passed to do ID, right? And because this is like the first render for the custom hook as well, the to do ID previously was nothing, right? Now it is 1, so it's going to hit the API, set the title, and because this title is getting set, set it up we are updating the title is returning, and it's returning, and we are saving it inside the to title and showing it. It works the same way. We just move the logic outside the component. This is custom hook, simple as that. Whatever you return, you will receive here. So if I return an array here, for example, let's make it instructing, and let's use loading as well. So because we are making API hits, right? So instead of just because right now what is happening, if you go here, what the damn man, right, you can see like a slight delay, right? Because the API is hit and it's getting returned, so there is slight delay. Let's put loading in there. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to say that I'm going to also return the to-do title and the loading, and I'm going to go here and say loading set loading. All right, and I'm going to say useState. Initially the loading is false, obviously. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is whenever I'm calling the useEffect, I'm going to set the loading to true, right? And finally, even if we error out, or even if we are success, I'm going to do a set loading to false, right? I want to just set the loading to false. Now if I console the to-do title here, you'll see what happened. You can see, right? It's returning the title and and the loading as well. All right, so for example, if I click, you can see that it runs false, right? True, then true, and then false, right? So for example, if I clear and click, so you can see, the values of to-do title. So previously to-do title was this and the loading was false, then the to-do title was this and loading was true, because when I set the loading to true, the to-do title is still same as the previous one. Okay, then the API hits get here, and I update the to-do title, right, and to-do title get updated, but the loading is still not updated, right, because loading was true still, and then I'll update the loading to false, because we got the response, right? So this is how it works. So now I can destructure it as same as we were destructuring useState. So I can just go here and say title and loading, right? And then instead of this, what I'm going to say to do, instead of to title, I'm say this, but in case if I'm loading, then say fetching. All right, that we are fetching, and if loading is not true, then show the title, right? So let's so see here. Now if I click, you can see the fetching, right? You can see the fetching because the loading is getting false and true again, false and true again, true and false again, right? So this is custom hook basically. Now if I want to use this custom hook inside any other component, I can just use it. I can create another component and just use it inside that component, and as a matter of fact, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's move this. Let's move that to to-do component, right, and paste it here. So now this is to-do component, which is getting called inside here. All right, if I go here, you can still see this, but then now I want to create another function, which is like, I can say to-do title component, and what it basically do is it just return the title. Let's just do this. All right, so what I need basically is I need these two things because number should be updated, or even if I don't want the number I can just remove it and instead just type anything static, right? Just anything static, and then use this to do title component below here, right? So now this logic which I had to do in both of them, now I only have to do it like once, and then I can use the same thing in everywhere. So if I go here and if I load it, you can see, right? You can see the fetching and this. Let me do one thing, instead of doing it like this, let me do it here. So you can see, right? If I reload, it's also going to fetch the same because I have hard coded the value, but you can still see, you know, the logic. The logic is in two different components, but we're still able to use it. And this is the power of basically custom hooks. So yeah, guys, this is basically, you know, my take on the React hooks. Please do let me know in the comments how do you like them, right? And if you want to me to do a specific video on a specific topic which is related to JavaScript, anything web development, I'm really happy to do that. So yeah, that is it for today, and I'll see you on next Saturday. Thanks, bye.